All right, so we are live. You're all welcome to today's webinar. And my name is Chris Chukwunyere, and I'll be moderating this very interesting webinar. I look forward to a very exciting time. This is a webinar that is organized by the African Women's Cancer Awareness Association. And today we are celebrating the International Women's Day. And this year, the topic or the title for this year's event is Women in Leadership. And we are going to just explore how we've been able to drive an equal world in a COVID-19 pandemic. So we have four interesting ladies who would be doing justice to every single thing that we're going to be talking about today. They have lots of experience in the medical field in different areas, and they're also going to share their experiences with us. First, we have Helen Mbonu. Helen Mbonu is from Nigeria, and she's the Group Director of Nursing Services at Reddington Hospital in Lagos. Reddington Hospital is like one of the best hospitals in Nigeria, private hospitals in Nigeria, top notch, you know. So Helen, you're welcome to today's webinar.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so and the next person on my list is Anna Cabanes. Anna Cabanes is a research consultant and advisor at Global Focus on Cancer USA. Anna is originally from Spain, right? Barcelona.
Yes, from Barcelona.
And,
yep.
Yes, and she's an American, of course. She got married to an American, and she's been in the breast cancer space for a long, long time, you know, both in the US and globally in Africa, in South America, like everywhere. So Anna, you're welcome to this webinar.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be with this
Yes,
group.
and I have my friend Nicole Joseph Chen. Nicole is also a breast cancer advocate, a self-esteem champion. Nicole has been doing a lot of work in Trinidad and across the world as well, and also in the US. And she's here to also do justice to the topic for today. You're welcome, Nicole.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And we have Miss Ife. Miss Ife is the president and founder of African Women's Cancer Awareness Association. So she's our host today. And but then she's going to also share her experiences, her wealth of experience with us. She's been also in the field of breast cancer for a long time now, not just in the US, but also across Africa, because she also takes medical missions to the African continent. You're welcome, Ms. Ife, to today's webinar.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody.
All right, so let's kick into the topic for today, women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so let's just do a quick, I've done a little introduction of you guys, at least a little I know, but then just tell us a little bit about yourselves, the work that you do in your various countries, and why you choose this career path. So we'll start with Anna, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, so I go first. So I'm Anna. I'm a cancer epidemiologist by training, and I'm gonna just jump and maybe to a little ahead of me, but I've always liked the health, public health. So this is why I decided to do this work. I'm an expert, or I think I'm an expert. I've done a lot of work in breast cancer but in breast cancer control. I am a public health professional. So one of the things is that I got to this topic, or to this global cancer world, not because of choice, but just because my interest developed over the years, right? It wasn't that I was born and I decided to be a cancer epidemiologist, but the more I digged into the breast cancer field, the more I liked, the population sciences and public health. So this is why I ended up here. I have experience. I worked with Chris for 18 months, and I just love doing the work I do. I think that there is so much that we need to be doing that, just really a good field, I think, to be in.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Anna. So, Helen, tell us a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, and why you chose this path.
Okay. I am a nurse to start with, and I've done this for over 25 years. So I've worked in many countries. I started out my journey in Finland. My other half, which means my mom is from Finland and my dad is Nigerian. So did my nursing in Finland, did not jump into it. I didn't wake up one morning and thought, this is my calling. This is what I have to do now. I went into it by default, and then I loved it. And I believe it is my calling, but I didn't realize it was my calling. So anyway, over the years, I've worked in England. I've worked in Nigeria. I've done a few things in like the kidney transplant program with Nigeria, and that's Delta State and UT Southwestern in Dallas in the US. So I've kind of like done a lot. I mean, with Chris, we met in Pro Health. So I still do Pro Health. So we're still volunteers. Once upon a time I worked there. He also works there as well. And we, go around the 36 states of Nigeria doing charity work, trying to give free healthcare to the less privileged and places where people can't reach. We try to get in there. So it's just been one thing after another. I'm in leadership as well. So actually at the point I am now, it's leadership. So I'm doing a lot of management, administrative training. So I train the young nurses as well in Nigeria, also voluntary. We go around states trying to educate them and update them on recent or, research in nursing, and as well as other areas of healthcare as well. So we're doing quite a lot of work around the country, which we need, and we need help. We need people to come through and also, help us with that. So in a nutshell, that's me.
All right. Thank you very much, Helen. Nicole, tell us about your work in Trinidad and Tobago.
So like Anna and Helen, I didn't start out in breast health or breast care. I started out in a completely different sphere, but I acknowledge that it brought me to this because it's all been about teaching and it's all been about advocacy. So in 2001, I established that there were too many gaps in the breast health awareness and advocacy spaces, particularly post-surgical care. And I also recognized that there were gaps inside of that breast esteem conversation because so many women after surgery were still not sure of how to navigate, how to feel empowered, and particularly around their image and their self-care. And I acknowledge as well that it was not something that was unique to my space, but had its roots almost everywhere in the world. And so I started looking at how could we enhance what was already existing in the awareness space, and how could we build tools that would enhance that experience for a woman. So it brought me to start a bra fitting company, bra and prosthetics fitting company. And then out of that, we started looking at what were the other needs that women had. And then we recognized that there was not just a woman's situation where she had a mastectomy or surgical issue, but it also needed to filter into the discussion around breast esteem in general for women and girls, and inside of populations where we would build more around that gender discussion that brought around a bigger discussion around empowerment and public health and women's health, so that it encapsulated not just a surgical diagnosis, but a feeling of a sense of empowerment and femininity in general. So we've built tools, we've built education programs, and we do a lot of sensitization that will bring that to add value to the awareness that already exists. So it's complementing whatever is out there.
All right. Thank you very much. Amazing, amazing work you ladies are doing. So, Miss Ifi, tell us about your work Well, how did you get into this path? What's your story?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me and thank you for the question. I got into working with women with breast cancer for two reasons. One was that at the time I went into it, there was a big gap, like Nicole was saying, in the United States, at least in the Washington area, regarding African immigrants who show up with breast cancer. And so I wanted to close that gap um, for especially our elderly women who come here to either live with their children or do some work, and most of the immigrant people who didn't have insurance. So that's how that came about. Unfortunately, down the line, I also was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm a breast cancer survivor, and my life's calling now is to make sure that no woman goes through breast cancer alone. We do a lot of work with the immigrant population, but also with all women. Breast cancer does not discriminate. We make sure that they have screening early. And when they are diagnosed with breast cancer, we also work with them to make sure that they get the appropriate treatment. We give supportive care, and most of all, we take our skills and take it back to Africa. So we visited a lot of countries: Sudan, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Nigeria, of course, and Tanzania. And we were scheduled to be going to Ghana before this COVID started. So we're excited about the work we do. We've translated educational materials into 11 African languages. And we've made a couple of mammogram machine to 3 African countries. So we keep working, and I'm glad to have these wonderful ladies with me today. Thank you very much.
You all are just powerful. Yeah, just powerful. I'm here to learn a lot from you guys. So, uh, talking about COVID-19, last year we just got hit by this sudden um, pandemic, and it has affected us in so many ways and different ways. So, let's start with Miss Ify. How has COVID affected your work?
I would say it affected our work in the sense that because of the nature of, first of all, the suddenness of the disease, then most of our patients, some of their treatment had to be rescheduled. Screening, for example, was no longer something that important. So all those had to be reshuffled. But for those who already were receiving treatment, we had to make sure that one way or the other, they don't skip their treatment. Then for the cancer survivors, we also had to work with them because they already have their immunocompromised. We didn't want them going out to the grocery stores or to the public places if they don't have to. So we had to jump in, make sure we find out their needs, deliver grocery to those that were really, really not in shape to be outside. We delivered a lot of PPEs through grants from the district government. And most of all was also to balance the mental health of these women. Because with COVID, plus already the problem of having breast cancer, it wasn't a good combination. So we had to make sure that mentally they had that balance. And so we also provided mental health support to make sure that if any of them needed it, we were there for them.
All right. So, Nicole, I won't ask you the same question. I will ask you a different question. So I know that the pandemic also affected your work in Trinidad. But then, could you just share with us maybe just one COVID-19 specific challenge that you faced while carrying out your work and how you were able to overcome it?
Absolutely. So of course, because the work that we all do is so engaging in terms of that one-on-one, and particularly around the risk now of making sure that we are compliant around all of the COVID-19 regulations and guidelines. One of the things I had to ensure was that we kept that customer and that patient safety at the highest level, in terms of standards of operating. So we adjusted some of our consultation arrangements so that we could actually meet the client and the patient more in their environment, and so that we could also reduce some of that risk involved in just the fear of what a diagnosis of cancer and COVID-19 would do, So that, again, that mental comfort, that ease of, okay, I do have the same care, same quality care or better, and now I'm actually getting a little more one-on-one because it's in my own environment, so that we actually increase the home visits, particularly around the breast cancer requests and the situations. And we also enhanced the clinic consultations a little bit, so that we again reduced what that fear might have been for any woman that came to have a consultation with us or her family.
All right, thank you very much, Nicole. It's important that for every challenge you face, there's need for innovation. To be able to meet the existing or the new challenges that actually spring up. I'm going to ask Helen a question, and because you work in Nigeria, you've grown through your career path onto this point. I want to find out. It's important for you to share with us what are the gender-specific challenges that you faced while carrying out your work, doing gender-specific challenges, stereotypes, or barriers that you overcome during the course of your career. Because I think that's really important, especially for those of us who are from Nigeria. We know how very strong men can be in the career space. So let's hear what your challenges have been.
Glad you asked me that question. Actually, it's a very good question. Like I mean, this is not just about Nigeria, but it's an African thing. It's male dominated, so it doesn't matter what sector you are in. So you have that whole thing, and it's a cultural thing. So it's embedded in the system, it's embedded in the culture and the attitude and how they've been brought up. How much do you respect a woman? So it's not just a woman in a position, but also a woman at home, a woman like your sister, somebody, especially you're a woman. So there is always a question to that. Because the way we've been brought up, and Chris, you know this well, that men are the head of the family. Men are meant to be respected. Women are meant to be submissive. Women, I mean, it's better now. I'm just going back, it is so much better. Chris, you're not that kind of a guy. I know that already. Your wife is so lucky to have you. But that said, I mean, majority of the population, depending on where you are from, you have a different culture. So I'm Igbo. Igbo, we're a little bit more exposed. I think the men respect the women. I know the men respect the women, mothers so much. So you have the houses up north, and the houses, the women have to be very submissive. I mean, they are coming up in, little bits here and there, doing their thing, but not as much as, because the population is quite, and the Yoruba is it's maybe 50-50. So you have women working out, but the whole culture of being submissive is very difficult. So in my area of work, up until about 6 months, I was the only female director in my institution. So now when we go for meetings and all that, and I have, I'm trying to make a case, I'm trying to discuss something really important concerning the organization, you have the men, would I say, talking to you like you're a woman, not being mean or anything, but they think they can joke with you. I'll give you an instance, for instance. So if I say something concerning patient safety, for instance, and I bring issues out and all that, so they could kind of crack a joke like, but you're a woman, why don't you just go do your thing? And you kind of like sexy, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, but that's not what I'm talking about. I need us to be a little bit serious. So it takes time to break those barriers. So each time you have to be serious, you have to be more focused. I work 4 or 5 times harder than a man. I get things done quicker than a man. I'm not saying this out of line, but I get it quicker done than a man, but still they pay me less, they respect me less. So I have to work all the time trying to gain that respect. Again, I would say it is getting better. And we're being recognized because I think there are a lot of amazing role models, in Nigeria, as well as Africa, up and coming, and they've done so well. So people can see that women can actually do what they say, they can do. They're not just wives in a home and, they have all these menial positions. No, now they're executives, they're directors, they own companies, they're CEOs, etc. So the challenges are unending, but we are, crossing the hurdles as we go. Yeah.
Okay, talking about family, talking about home, I'm going to ask Anna this question. Anna, you have a beautiful family, and
Yes.
you've risen to to the point of a director and all of that. But then, at what point did you have to struggle between career and family? Did you have to make sacrifices, to just focus on family and hold on with career? How did you manage all of that, and how are you able to come back, to this level that you are at this moment?
So I think that choices and challenges, they exist, right? And sometimes are the children, sometimes are the parents, sometimes are extended family, friends. So you're always, in every life, there's challenges and choices to be made. So I think that accepting this, it's okay. I also think that it shouldn't default on women, to make those choices. Like if there is some sacrifice to make, it shouldn't be just the woman in the family, the one who has to make those. So I just try to take the challenges as they come, make a choice, and not, I wouldn't say not worry much, but the truth is that you have to be happy with what you do. And if you have 2 children and you want to be with the children, it's okay to be with them, and you can make a comeback later. There might be some fields where you're really behind, and that wouldn't be our field or my field in health and public health. I've been able to slow down, to accelerate a little bit, and be satisfied and make it to a leadership position. And I think that actually, you become a better leader. And if you've had to make these kind of choices yourself. So I wouldn't I don't know. I think that everyone makes choices, you too, and all here. One thing though that I want to talk, now that you've given me the floor, I just want to mention that today is International Women's Day. We're all working cancer or in health. And if you look at society, the different peoples or type of people that make up society, women are always at the bottom of that. ladder if you want. So I think that on a day like today, we I'd like to be conscious, and I want us to discuss how can we make it better for women. Women have in everywhere, in every country that you look at, women and health, it's always the last thing to think. And when we get ahead is when we talk about reproductive health, but then when women are not in a reproductive age, they just fall off that system. And I think that this is really what is important. We as a leaders, we also need to be conscious of this, right? That there is this important aspect of women and older women in particular that suddenly they're not in anyone's map, right? And so I just want to put this out there for my colleagues to comment. I see Miss Ify nodding, right? But
Yeah, it's really very important. In fact, one of the things you just mentioned that struck a chord in me was the fact that in making choices, there will always be choices, first of all. But then in making choices, it doesn't have to always fall on the woman. The woman gives birth to the children. She has to stop her job or stop her work. She has to be the one to take the kids to the hospital while the man thinks he has to go to work and provide for the family. So she's the only one who's trying to do everything, and it's always weighs down, on the woman. Miss Ify, I know you have an experience, in area of making choices along the path of your career. So what advice would you give to a young career woman who is juggling between family, trying to make choices or decision between family, kids, and work? And just like Anna said, at some point you would slow down, at some point you will accelerate, and all of that. What advice would you give someone like that?
I honestly don't think that there is one answer fit all. Meaning that we all make choices at different times in our lives. For young ones who are coming up, my personal advice is to make sure that your family comes first, for the simple reason that whatever you put into children at this time, that is what defines or hopefully will make up, the adult when they grow up. So it's difficult because you're juggling between raising kids, keeping a home, and your career. So like Anna just said, there are times you have to make adjustments to slow down. And there are times you have to make adjustments to move forward, because there are certain things sometimes that just cannot wait. So you have to learn to chew gum and walk at the same time. And women do it without any textbook. We find a way to just make it work. So I'm glad today is International Women's Day. And I'll say kudos to all the women out there who are doing it one way or the other. At the same time, remembering that your family is the core of everything you do. And that's my simple response to that.
Thank you very much, Miss Ify. So I'd like us to talk about the area of including women in the entirety of the health system. Just like Anna had said, if it's not reproductive health, it looks like women are cut off from the system. We are leaders, and we also contribute to policy making and advocacy and all of that. So Nicole, what do you think is the reason behind this gap, and how do you think we can actually bridge this gap and ensure that there is an all-inclusive approach to ensuring that women are involved in healthcare?
Well, first of all, Anna got my vote. Anna, when you started to speak, you raised that one thing that keeps me going and keeps me fueled and also keeps me wanting to create new advocacy tools. Because as Anna said, reproductive health. First of all, when we start to speak reproductive health in the world, we start to think of cutting the woman in half. So we always think of just her reproductive organs, and we forget that breast health is a part of the whole system. So we isolate, and I've gone to numerous global conferences, and there are booths around reproductive and sexual health. And then there's one booth that represents breast health, and it only speaks about breast cancer. So right away, the whole discussion around morbidity happens, and there's no other space for a woman's breasts to rely on some kind of other empowerment conversation or anything that says, okay, great, menopause, tick, we have you, we got your back. Pregnancy, we got your back. Weight gain and hormonal activities, we got your back. So there's this isolation that happens. And so a lot of the tools that I'm building and that I've built particularly speak to dignity. The education programming that I've built speak to dignity, and it speaks about dignity at every stage and age of a woman's journey. So Anna, I need your help.
You have it.
I need your alliance, because this has to change. The conversation has to change. Helen, I need your help. Dr. Iffy, I need your help. All of these conversations have to change. We've built the tools. I've spent a lot of time understanding those gaps. When I get to a conference and I start to ask the questions around the gaps, people get upset because it sounds like, what am I doing? I'm coming to cause trouble. I didn't come to cause trouble. What I came to do was add that component that makes a woman whole, that makes her feel included, that does not speak to her youth and her vibrancy and her sexuality and her femininity, and then at menopause, discard her and say, oh, well, you're no longer feminine. You're now menopausal, or you're perimenopausal, and to understand some of those discussions and those dialogues. So all of the education material that I have that is ready and available speaks to that. Where do we start to really change that conversation so that it also is inclusive in the clinical space and the clinical sphere? That's where we need to go. And how do we bring it inside of spaces? For example, many years ago, starting in 2015, actually, a university in the US acknowledged and recognized that there was a gap in their breast health curriculum. And what they started doing was having a study abroad in collaboration with my company and with myself to bring their students, their medical students, to Trinidad and Tobago to sit with us almost as a mentoring type of arrangement to train their students in the modalities and the capacity that we have created that does not exist on a curriculum. So again, bringing that into a space where it makes a curriculum, or it makes learning, or it makes women's health become comprehensive and in its real entirety. And Chris understands, I think he got it just quickly and early about the work.
I did.
The mischief I was making and how important the mischief is in that whole women's health dialogue, because we cannot isolate the woman at any stage of her life and of her life cycle. And we also have to include the girl, because the girl sometimes doesn't have, many times when I do a consultation with a woman, she would say, my mother never talked about this. We never talked about my breast development. We never talked about menopause. A lot of women, we do a lot of menopause conversations, and a lot of women say, my mother never told me what her symptoms were, or what she was going through, or what she was dealing with. So again, we also sometimes think that the conversation is too taboo or too age-centric to include in a public health dialogue. No, it's not. So we need this army of women and Chris to change some of those dialogues and to have them inclusive and to actually have them as part of an advocacy and a policy development mission.
All right, I think that's a take home, even for everyone who is listening and who is in leadership position, there is need for a lot more advocacy. There is need for policy development that will help drive these thoughts through. Uh, I'm going to ask Helen a very important question. Nursing is seen as a profession for females. You find out that 90% or 95% of women, go into nursing, and few men, you know, go into it as well. But then when you see a man who is a nurse, it looks, in our culture around us, it looks absurd, or it doesn't look normal. But in the US, of course, it's not a big deal. But then, in Africa, in Nigeria, 95, plus women go into nursing. Now you deal with a lot of women, or you've also, let me say, you've dealt with a lot of women over the years who have worked under you, who have you've you've mentored, guided, and all of that. Now, have you ever had a time when there was a competition amongst women? Because the idea is that we rise by lifting others, But then, if in that space, have you ever had a time when there was this competition amongst women, and what approach did you take? It may just be even with you. What approach did you take to rise above it and ensure that you create an environment where women can support each other to grow in their career?
Thank you, Chris. Like you said, over the years, I've been privileged to be in positions where I have a lot of female subordinates, work with them, mentor them as well. There have been a lot of, one of the things women don't do well is work together. So we have that, I don't know what it is, like we are seriously jealous of each other, and we relate better with male than the female, we feel more comfortable having a male boss than a female boss. And there are many reasons to that. So one of the things, let's start from the top. One of the things is, as a leader, I always ask myself, so what kind of a boss do I want to be? What kind of a leader do I want to be? And how do I want to manage? Not just women, but men as well. So on my day-to-day, so this is the answer to it. I must be a role model, which means that I have to be open to be able to take things in. So whatever they tell me, I'll be able to, relate better. So even if I don't have an action behind what I'm meant to do next, I would sit down and would have a conversation. Now, having conversations is one of the best tools you could use in either educating or getting solutions, because sometimes it's not about me providing the solution, but it's about us sitting together and brainstorming and coming up with solutions to various challenges. So as a role model to the people who I believe I am a role model to them, because they see me every day. I make decisions on their behalf for them, even when they don't even know I'm still making decisions for them. So when they come up, like women come up and have like some issues and they feel that, no, I'm the best person for this position. Why is this person for the position? Because once you promote a female, the others become, a few of them become jealous. So they don't know how to deal with, less support. The more women go up the ladder, then maybe I could also be part of the path that would lead to the same kind of promotion that that person has had. So it's all about talking to them from scratch. So when I get the nurses as students, these are the things we talk about in leadership. We talk about women, because there's something called eating their young. So we have our nurses eating their youngs, they don't let them grow, whether male or female, but mostly women. So we try to advocate the other way around. So why don't we give scenarios and we talk about, okay, if I'm leading a bunch of nurses and, you are in that position. So what happens when they have issues? So it means that I need to put myself in a position where they need to understand that I am trying to mentor you and the things that I say are important. So what am I saying? I'm saying to you that, look, this is only a position. You need to get up the ladder. I did not wake up in the morning and just became this person I am. This is my journey. So you need to sit down. It's a psychological journey, completely a psychological journey as a woman through your positions. So you sit down with them and you talk to them about how this has happened to you, give experiences. They need to see, they need to have role models. You need to also, mentorship is important. So you need to develop, mentors. They could all be of the same grade and all the same age and all, but you find that people do special things, so try to relate. Like I get my nurses and I move them from one branch to the next branch to see what everybody else is doing, and then we have like Zoom meetings. We get to talk to ourselves every Monday. We talk about everything and anything. That way you empower them. So it opens the door, because one thing we don't do very well in Africa and in Nigeria especially, we don't know how to communicate. So we don't know how to express ourselves. Everything has to be aggression. Everything has to be like by force. It doesn't have to be by force. We can talk to ourselves. We can get better as women. So over the years, it has been communicate, get people who we believe are mentors, that could be potential mentors to them, expose them to a lot of conferences, so that they get to see other women, speak to them, get to see what other women are doing in their positions, even in nursing, because generally people think that nurses are just, clinical. We're not just clinical. We do a whole lot more than just clinicals. We literally run the hospital, but it's like a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, and the husband thinks that, oh, I'm running the house, but you're not doing anything. Literally, the woman is doing everything, making you feel
Really?
good about your position. Honestly. So we literally run the home, but we just let the men shine, and it's all an ego thing. Like, you're doing so well. Wow, this is your family. I'm only joking, Chris. But so it is the same thing. So I mean, that's how we have been moving forward with it. We have to identify all the time. For one thing, I say to them is that have as many mentors as possible, because it is important. I might be good at one thing, I might not be good at the other, so have as many mentors as possible, especially female mentors. And you say things like promote yourself, talk good about yourself, be kind to yourself. I mean, these things are basic, but they're so important in those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Talking about, thank you, Helen. I'm going to throw this to Anna, because I've worked with Anna. And while I was in the Washington, D.C. office, I was the only male in that office. And we had at a point, we now had about 11 women in the office. It was very comfortable for me. I don't know why, but, I've always been an ally for women. So it was a comfortable environment for me. I want you to bring a perspective to this. So Helen has talked about it from the perspective of maybe also culture. Do you think because where we worked, it was female dominated, also because it's a breast cancer space, so you have a lot more women who, working in this space. Do you think there was some level of, competition? And if there was, how were you able to deal with them? What do you advise women who are in that situation, on how to see how they can actually build themselves, support themselves instead of compete? Because I think collaboration is a lot more better than competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, when you are actually competing in the same organization for resources or for promotions, there is a little bit of that competition, and I don't know that you can completely lower it down to zero. But to young women, what I would say is, I couldn't agree more with Helen about the mentorship issue. Just find a mentor, and it doesn't have to be like, if you're like your boss, it's not going to be able to be your mentor, can be your manager, but just go find a mentor outside of your day-to-day life, but in your field. And that, if you find the right person or the right people, I think that this is the most valuable asset that can keep you going for a long, long time. Within, when competition is okay to a certain extent, as long as it doesn't become pathologic, right? So there has to be a little bit of a balance. But for me, what always worked at work, at the office, or with the organization is one is to be inclusive. So do not try to bring people in as opposed to remove people from your circle, because that makes you also better, much better. It works for you and works for them. And the second one is show the commitment to your the mission or whatever job you have. You can find a mission in every job, right? Ours, it might be a little bit easier, it's more clear, but in any job you can find a mission. So stay committed to that and use that as what drives your work. So if whatever you do at work, you do it because it's the best for the outcome that you're trying to reach, right? In my case, could be to improve access to breast care services, right? So just use that, don't lose that, and have that in mind all the time. And this is important, but also because you're so focused on your mission, you kind of don't have a lot of time to spend doing other things that might be, like to gossip in the office or to be, just kind of that keeps your focus. So really stick to evidence, stick to your mission on one hand, and then go find women that you feel comfortable. And, if I was young, I would look for someone with a little bit ahead of me in my career, because it just, they just walked the same steps that you want to walk. So just have that person, or not just one, maybe get a couple or 2, 3 women. I would select women. I just find it's easier. You might run into the same issues, but this is really useful. I never, if somebody asks me if I can mentor, I rarely say no, unless I feel that I cannot be useful at all. But I, people are open to do that. And so it's a really good thing to do. I think it's very important.
Thank you, Anna. I personally think you're a great mentor.
Thank you.
You've been my mentor for a while now, so I can tell that. I remember the times when after work I would, just sit with you in the office, because you don't go home at exactly when everyone goes home. So, so there's always work to be done. So I get to just barge in and just have some time to be guided. And you've always done a good job with that. You've never said no to me. So I can attest to that. Thank you very much. So, Miss Ife, you've had quite a number of experiences in terms of your career growth and the path that you worked. Talking about mentors and talking about people that you talk to, is there any woman that has made this significant impact in your career life? And what major lesson did you learn from?
Yes, I would say that Rosemary Williams, unfortunately she's late, was some lady that made wonderful impression on me when I first started working and talking about breast cancer for African immigrants. Rosemary Williams at the time was with the Howard University Cancer Center. And after she met me, saw what I was doing, I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't have anywhere to go with my amazing idea of trying to help African immigrants. And for me to take them from point A to B to get screened, it wasn't that easy. Somebody has to pay for that service. But this lady works at the Howard University Cancer Center. She apparently believed in what I was doing, and she opened the door for us and said every month that Howard University Cancer Center can take in 5 to 10 African immigrant women who needed to be screened at no cost. And so I thought, for such a lady in that position to open that kind of door, it meant a lot to me. She believed in what we were doing, and she raised us up to this day, we still have that relationship with the Cancer Center, whereby we send our women to Howard University Cancer Center and they get screened at no cost. We've developed that relationship with other facilities. However, they were the first to open their doors. And I say kudos to all the women that I have met through them. Dr. Laurie Wilson, Dr. Carla Williams, and the nurses and various people. But at the same time, I would not say that my career path has been only through them, because I've had the good fortune of meeting people like Anna, people like Dr. Vanessa Shepherd, Maureen Ume, and a host of other women who have also helped to pull me up to where I am today. And for that, I say thank you, and I'm grateful.
Yes, we say
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Nicole, I know you're widely traveled and you've met quite a lot of people, and it's also important that you share that person who has made a very significant, impact in your career path, and what major lesson did you learn from that person?
Wow.
Mhm.
There are so many. There are so many, and maybe they fall into different categories. There's this incredible woman that's part of the Vital Voices network. Her name is Zoe Dean Smith. She's from Swaziland. And Zoe has actually inspired me to just understand the value of being whole. She has a product called a Holistic Life Map. And what it does is it helps you to, as a caregiver particularly, look at how you balance everything. And it's something that I've been very focused on for all my life. And that tool just adds value to it. So self-care is so important as a caregiver that will be the person that I will think of when I think of me as the human being having to look after my job and my journey. Inside of my journey in leadership, there have been numerous people that have developed me along the way. In my first and former career, that person is deceased. It was a man, Terrence J. Martins. He was one of the directors of the organization that I worked with, which was Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. And some of his mentoring and some of the faith that he had in me allowed me to develop and to grow and to understand that I could have literally done anything anywhere. And again, inside of my other journeys and my other paths, I would say one of the other women that have inspired me again to be bold and to be determined to acknowledge that we can change lives and we can change many things in the world. It's another African woman, Cameroonian. She's Kawala, and she is a politician in her life journey in leadership. And so again, it's about the bravery. So at every step of the way, someone has encouraged me to be braver, bolder, to dream bigger, as well as to understand that I need to pursue this as a passion and understand that it's okay if nobody understands it. Because when I started this organization, Miss Profit, and when I started doing Profitings 19 years ago, no one understood where I was heading with it. When I looked at all the other things that I had to add to deliver that complete solution to a woman, again, it was not understood. My determination and my, that lack of giving up is what also, again, kept me going, kept me fueled. So there's so many people that I thank collectively and individually every single step of the way. So there's so many, Chris, that I couldn't identify one, but I could identify them on different continents, in different spaces, and at different times of my journey.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. I think our stories are, similar in that regard. At different stages in our lives and in our careers, we've met people who have been, there for us to just push us, encourage us, inspire us, to become who we are today. And you talked about determination, and that would bring me to something that I think is very important, and that's the aspect of virtue, qualities, or character traits that we actually need as women, to rise in the ladder of success or leadership that we aspire to get to. So I would ask Helen, what qualities or values or work ethics, whatever it is that you think has been able to help you get to this state, and you would actually advise that young women who want to get to where you are would imbibe?
Okay, so I would say within the years, one of the qualities that I think I possess that has made me come this far is just being myself, not being a version of anybody else, but just me, believing in what I do, So, I mean, believing in what I do, of course, it means that how does it fit into whatever organization that you are in? Definitely. But I think it's just being who I am. Make sure that your word is your bond. If you can, say yes. If you can't, don't complicate matters. Do not become like a man, because they believe that when you become a leader, especially in this past, you have to act like a man, behave like a man. No. I remember one time where I was going to make a case and I was upset already. And I said before I started speaking, I said, I'm going to get emotional, but does not mean that you will not hear what I have to say. So allow me, let my tears drop. Do not come tell me, oh, sorry, and all that. No, that's not what I want at this moment. This is how I feel. So that's what's going to come out of me. And everybody kept calm until I finished saying what I need to say. So this is me being a woman. I cannot be a man. I'm full of emotions. I'm full of passion. So I'm passionate about the things I do. And, be honest, be straightforward. Don't lie, don't beat about the bush. Just be yourself and be true to whatever task that is given to you. Be true to it. Just do the best that you can, and that's it. And the rest would sort itself out. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Anna, what are the qualities that you would drop in this basket of advice?
I think that Helen has put it very clearly out there, and as I mentioned before, be inclusive and be focused. And so don't get distracted by other things, but also be inclusive. But if someone is negative or toxic, be exclusive. Then they don't have any problem with just moving on without that person. So really identifying this, which is part of being focused. I think be yourself and believe in you also, right?
CV, thank you, Anna. What would you drop for us?
I believe the two speakers before me said it all. And if you notice when Helen said, I did a thumbs up, be yourself. Be yourself at all times. Believe in whatever it is your passion, your dream is, and go for it. In the process, don't put people down. If anything, pull them up as you go along. And for me, it depends on the different individuals' spirituality. I always make sure that I have God at all times in whatever I'm doing and in whatever it is that I'm pursuing. With Him, all things are possible. So it depends on your belief and whatever. But in this world, there are always people out there ready to help you if you let them. If they are toxic, like Anna said, please detour, take another direction. You don't need that. You don't need that. So that's it.
Thank you, Miss Ife. Nicole, what would you advise?
Determination. We're feeding off of the same things that each other said,
Yeah.
Determination for sure. being yourself for certain. Do not throw anyone under the bus.
Mhm.
Don't be ready to throw someone under the bus to get where you want to get to.
Mhm.
Because you never know when that bus wheel is going to come and mash your feet instead and stop you. So I say inclusion for sure. Empathy and compassion.
Mhm.
And compassion for ourselves first. We have a way. We feel we could fix the world. And sometimes we are tired and we do not acknowledge that we are tired. Or we give ourselves less than we ought to move to the next level. So self-care is important. Acknowledging that we are tired is important. And yes, toxicity, when you see toxicity coming, run. Run in the opposite direction. If you could jump on a plane and get away from that toxicity. In other words, whatever you have to do to move away from what does not serve us and what doesn't help us to fulfill purpose, we have to know how to do it. Learn to say
Thank you.
no and own
Go
that
ahead, go
no,
ahead.
and own that no sometimes when
That's very
it is
important.
necessary.
Yeah. Be yourself. Is it a feminine thing? You always saying just be yourself, believe in what you're doing. Is it a feminine thing or it's just what it is?
Well, I think, Chris, I think one of the things when you say be yourself, it's so easy for a woman to kind of, because we try to make things right. So we are, how will I say, we're carers. We like to care for things. We like to make sure things are done well. So being ourselves, sometimes we're not ourselves. That's the honest truth, because we're trying to please other people and we never seem to take care of ourselves. So we talk about the self-care. That's part of it, because we're trying to be this person and make sure that this person is okay and that person. So be yourself means, be free to say no and yes when you can, okay, let me see what I can do. Not everything is yes, yes. And if you met a lot of women, we're like, yes, okay, that's okay. And you're piling on work. And then the next thing you know, the person is stressed and depressed. And, then all her hell will let loose. And they say, what's wrong with her? She's had enough. And she explodes. We're just like that. We then explode and we become something else, and so that's be yourself. You have to really be yourself.
All right. So everyone, you've heard that be yourself. It's very important. If you don't understand what be yourself means, go and Google it. Okay. You'll get more information about that. You just need that. And the aspect of self-care is really very important because we tend to want to do everything. We tend to carry all the burden of everyone. I know how it is when you have a lot of work in that leadership position. There is a lot that is coming at your table. You're feeling stressed. You just want to get things done. It's important sometimes to just exhale. You can tell yourself, I think I'm tired. I need to just take a little break and I'll get back to this work. Really very important. I'm going to ask a personal question. But then it's okay. It's just something I think it's very important that can actually help other young women who are also coming up. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Think about where you were 20 years when you were 20 and the things you were thinking you were going to do and how life took a detour and how you got to where you are. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Who wants to take that one first?
I
Ready to
can
take
go.
a stab on that.
I can do this. I can answer that.
Go ahead.
At 20, I wanted to already become an entrepreneur. I had already been doing it. I knew it was to serve humanity. I just did not know how. But I think if I had to speak to my 20-year-old self today at 50, I would actually tell my 20-year-old self to just do exactly what she did. Because had I not done things that way, I wouldn't get the wisdom that I have today. I wouldn't meet the amazing people that I have met along the way. I would not have made the mistakes that I've made along the way that I've allowed to grow out of or to grow to learn from. So my 20-year-old self was actually on course and on track and doing the right thing already at 20, not even recognizing that 30 years later, I can say to her, hey girl, thumbs up. Maybe one thing I could have done a little extra was sleep more.
That's awesome. Helen,
Hmm.
what would you
You know,
tell your 20-year-old self?
so this is how I would start this. I would say that life is in stages. And just like Nicole has said, I'm not sure my 20-year, my own journey is kind of very different from hers because at 20, I already had my first child. So would I change that? I don't think so. But all I would say to my 20, well, I'm saying that to my daughter now who's going to be 18. And I'm like, I say to her, I say, you know what? Don't get married at 18. Get to enjoy the world, get to see the world, get to understand your body and what you need and how you want things done, you know. At least like 25, then you can think of anything else. At least this time you've explored yourself. So I would say my 20-year-old self, I would say to myself, maybe I would have explored more options, you know. But do I regret it? No, not really. I think I've done well. So I'm kind of happy.
So, Missy, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? What advice would you give?
Okay. Looking back, my 20-year-old was a risk taker. I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to be in America or anywhere outside of the country. And I was bold enough to make that happen. However, looking back at 20, I would not ask a young girl to come abroad without proper arrangement, without making sure you have somebody to care for you, to mentor you, to help you in whatever you're doing, because that can become costly at the end of the road. So that risk taking was good. I'm here. I'm still here. But like I said, sometimes the cost is expensive.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. But I would not change who I was then and who I have become and who I am now. That's it.
I've heard Missy story because she's told me her story, and I've also seen her over the, like 2 years now. Missy takes risk. She would push for anything. And it's been consistent over the years, so I can relate to what she's saying, but then sometimes calculated risk are very would be very helpful. Anna, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
I think, stay focused, determined, and the rest will come. I think, that maybe, I don't know. It's just if you have focus and determination, I think, you might still take different directions, but you're going to get to some place that's going to be really good. So I would say that, don't worry too much, enjoy the present, but be focused and be determined.
Enjoy the present, but be focused.
Enjoy the present.
They're all loaded advices that you are all putting down for everyone who's watching, and I believe that a lot of people are learning one or two things. We are about rounding up, but we're not going to round up without involving the men. So the question would be, how can men be involved in fostering, equality and reducing gender bias? How do we involve men? How can men be allies, to all of this advocacy that we are trying to, push out there? when it comes to women's equality, when it comes to gender bias. In parts of Africa, you have um, gender-based violence, out there, lots of rape cases going on. How do we get men to, be supportive and become allies to this cause that we're trying to pursue?
That's another difficult one. I'd say, that this is not also something that can be fixed just by men or doing one thing. There are policy issues, there are legal issues. Women make less money for doing the same job. So there's a whole world there, but there is also an education component, right? Like I have a son, so it's my responsibility to make sure that he is going to be a good partner. And, it's not, I saw in Facebook today, somebody posted, no plus, no minus, just equal. This is what we need to go to, right? So I think that there's so many different aspects that can influence that. So I don't know what to say. A man just, I think it is important, though, that we understand that in terms of, going back to what I said at the beginning, women's health, women still are at the bottom of the pyramid, if you want, so compared to men in terms of health. So, let's take a gender, a view from a gender perspective in health, and also a view across the lifespan, so we don't just drop young women or old women out of that. And keep working. Just do not give up. Just keep pushing advocacy, and pushing until we get to a better place. That's
Thank you very much, Anna. The part about raising your son, to be that kind of person who would be very supportive, a very supportive partner, and a great man is really very important. I think that's where the foundation of all of this, holds strong, because if we can raise boys into great men, we would have a better society. So, Helen, what would you say?
Yes, I think you just touched one of the things, I'd say especially for Africa, which it's a little bit more hard than most of the developed world. Everything starts from charity begins at home. So how are we, even the mothers are not helping in that matter, that. So it's like, for instance, normal basic chores at home. You have the male and the female. And, allow the boy not to go to the kitchen, not to cook, not to do basic stuff, and they let the girls cook and all that. And the boys go wash cars or maybe do something else that's completely abstract to normal house chores. So I think it should start from there. We should understand that, it's 50-50. Like you said, no plus, no minus, just equal. So that's what it is. So we should have the attitude as parents, both male and female, especially the man, because one of the things we say is like, you're a man, you shouldn't cry. You're a man, you shouldn't do this. You're a man. But hey, a man is a human being. So you would cry, you would hurt, we go through the same process. Whatever they think, we still go through the same process. But that attitude they need to cut it out completely and kind of look at things from a different perspective. Like, what is good for the geese is good for the gander. So if my daughter is cooking today, my son is cooking tomorrow. And hey, and those kind of families, the male do better. So that's one part of it. Another thing is like in a bigger, like organizations, positions. What positions are open for females, so we need to open more positions for females. Just try them out, see if they can do better. But, there's this assumption that we would not, because we don't have the drive, we don't have the aggression, we don't have the, so that's part of it. And then on the government level, what are we still doing? Politics. I mean, how many women are in politics? How many women are in the Senate? How many people are in the lower house? How many, so those are the things. So for men, as you go into your positions, you should also understand that you need to pull women along, from the home, in the organization, in politics as well. So if we could cover those grounds, then fine, then we would do good.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Helen. Nicole, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm endorsing what both Anna and Helen have said. It really starts in the home, but the other thing is, it also starts where organizations have to also change some of their human resource rules. The access that women get should be the same as that the man gets. Equality of salaries, equality of job descriptions and job scopes, and ability to access some of the promotions, some of the departments that are male dominant. Again, in some of the chambers of commerce and stuff, you see where, for example, in that business space, you see it being a male dominated space, or where certain aspects of commerce are focused on the men. So when you're starting to look at your education inside of the school space, boys start to think, okay, I'm going to study finance. Girls start to think, okay, I'm only going to study what is attributed to femininity and softness. Hey, let's keep those open spaces to access education equally. So, you know, it has so many layers. So home, and then the school and education system, and then how we look at the hiring and employment spaces. So again, you know, there's so many things, as Anna said, that have to change, and policy drives all of those changes. But of course, we do have to train our men and our boys differently, first and foremost.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Miss Ife.
I agree with all the speakers, but I think at this time and space that we're in, there wouldn't be a better example than our current president electing a female to be the vice president. So hopefully, I'm sure a lot of thought and work went into that, even though it's politics, that allows other areas, other countries, other spheres in this whole wide world to know that a man can pull a woman up, and that is partnership, just like in a marriage. At all times is partnership and respect for the other gender. Respect that she can do it, and communication, listening to each other, trying to know where is the balance. But most of all, if we as women, as mothers, begin to raise our sons to be compassionate human beings, to listen to the other gender, and to work together, we will have a better world. Thank God for technology. The world is getting closer, so we're all learning from each other. So this journey is a
Awesome.
journey where we're continuously learning, never too old to stop learning. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Ife. Thank you. Never too old to stop learning. Miss Ife, she's still learning. Miss Ife is still learning. If you ask her, you will hear the school she's in. This woman. Okay, so finally, this is the last part of today's webinar, and you know, this year's hashtag is choose to challenge. Choose to challenge. So, one last word from all of you. What have you chosen to challenge as a woman? Or what are you committing to continue to challenge as a woman?
So I'll start. So, you know, my passion, you know, you know, that I'm really committed to improving access to cancer care or breast cancer care everywhere. So this is my commitment, you know, to continue working on that, even in the context of COVID, helping organizations like the one I'm in now to implement the programs that they were implementing, the supportive programs, to move them in a digital platform, so they can, so services can continue even though COVID or whatever it's still coming. So my commitment is this, to keep working on that with that gender perspective, making sure that women are included, and that women of all ages and all walks of life.
Awesome, thank you. Helen.
So I choose to challenge my continuous empowerment to not just young nurses, but young female. So we keep doing it every day, but we just choose to do it. It can be challenging, but you just choose to do that, then you just stay on track and keep empowering young women.
Awesome. Nicole.
I choose to continue the advocacy that I'm doing. I choose to continue building the education solutions that I am building. I choose to continue knocking on the doors that I feel will understand the value of that education and the value of the advocacy and how it fills those gaps. And I choose to challenge that if I'm not doing it the right way, I'm willing and open to being guided by how, because I know the what.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so before I hand over to Miss Ify, she would do the final choosing to challenge and then make a final statement. I will just read quickly what Miss Terry is, she's Director of Patient Navigation at AWCAA. So she said, "Thank you, ladies and Chris. Awesome job. Our men should be more compassionate towards women's issues as us as women do. Thank you to you all." Thank you, Miss Terry. Miss Terry, we see you from here. All right, so Miss Ify, final word from you, and then we'll round up.
Okay. I choose to challenge women's health. And when I say women's health, I mean every aspect of women's health, but most especially the breast health, which is where my compassion is. And I choose to challenge a better health for all women, because when a woman is healthy, the home is healthy. When a woman is healthy, the children are happy and healthy. The man, of course, is happy and healthy. So I choose to challenge every aspect that opens up the door for women to stay focused, to stay healthy, and to continue to work together to complement each other, not compete with each other. Together, we're stronger.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Ify. Having said that, yes, your vote of thanks.
I would like to especially thank our moderator, who is a male, that he came on here. He's pumping all these questions. Thank you so much. And also for introducing us to the beautiful ladies. Miss Helen, it's such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll be talking later. And for Miss Nicole, what an awesome job you're doing out there. Keep it up. I appreciate your time, your presence, and your wisdom on this show today. For Dr. Anna, it was, I don't know how best to put it. She is just a giant, and she has such a big heart. So I'm excited, I'm working with her, and I know we'll be going to greater heights with her in the group. So for
My
all
pleasure.
for all the listeners out there, we thank you for tuning in and for listening. We always have programs. Check us out. We are there. We challenge ourselves to be better human beings, and that's the way to go. For all the women worldwide, happy International Women's Day. You are great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Happy International Women's Day, ladies. It was
Thank
my
you.
pleasure to just
Thank
have
you.
spent 1 hour,
Thank
30
you.
minutes with you all. It's been a very amazing and interesting time and very enlightening too. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very wonderful evening, wonderful afternoon, wonderful morning.
you.
Miss Ife, are you
Yeah,
trying to say something?
yes. I will be remiss if I don't mention my staff.
Yay, of course.
They won't let me back in the office. I'd like to say thank you to the staff of AWCAA and most especially to the board of directors. They have given us the anchor and they are always there to make sure we're moving forward in the right way. Thank you all very much. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's
Thank
exactly
you.
our time. So I wouldn't want it to cross an extra 1 minute. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for a wonderful
Thank
time.
you.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.